Welcome back to the Joust About Careers podcast. This is the place to learn about careers from the people who are actually doing the work every day. I'm your host, Brian Brott, and this week's guest is 2007 Van Buren graduate Ashley Little, who is the Director of Graduate Admissions at the University of Findlay. In this episode, Ashley shares how a typical day looks in her position, the role a graphic design degree played in her career journey, what students who might want to go to graduate school should be doing right now, and much more. Whether you are interested in a career in higher education or are still exploring your options, I hope that what Ashley shares today will help all of you make better career decisions and have fulfilling career journeys. Enjoy the show. Ashley, thank you very much for joining us today. And I'd like to start by finding out how a typical day looks for the Director of Graduate Admissions at the University of Findlay.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be chatting with you and talking about what I do daily. So, truthfully, each day is a little different. I would say that more so it's looked at in my world by the week. So we look at a lot of things kind of cyclically, right? So admissions, recruitment in general is cyclical. So I would say, Mondays I spend a lot of time reporting, getting caught up on emails, text messages, those sorts of things from the weekend, reviewing any sort of new inquiry or application that we've had come in. That's something that I pretty much do daily. I host a team meeting. I do oversee 2 counselors, so we have that. And then truthfully, just really kind of rolling with things as they come in. We've been working really hard recently on different recruitment efforts, so I spend a lot of time searching for different universities that we could potentially partner with that maybe have undergraduate funnels that don't offer graduate programs. So I would say that that's kind of what takes the most of my daily activities, at least right now.
Right. I guess I never think about graduate admissions counselors. I always think of undergraduate admissions counselors. Is that typical? Do most graduate schools have admissions counselors?
Yeah, so I think each university is a little bit different. And it also kind of depends, right? So for instance, we have pharmacy that is considered a graduate program here. However, we actually don't interact with those students at all. They have a whole separate counselor that works with all of their students. So whether they're coming in as 0+6 in undergrad or they're coming in at the professional level. But to a certain extent, yes, I would say that all graduate programs have someone that's helping them through the process.
Okay.
We have a pretty small team. Obviously, the University of Findlay isn't a super big university. We have about 15, maybe 1,300 graduate students between all of our programs. So, and that's including international students as well. And we actually only work with domestic students. The international students have a whole separate process. But yeah, I would say most universities do.
Right. So as you were graduating from high school, what were your career plans? Were you thinking you would someday be in higher education, or were you planning for something else?
No, I definitely wasn't planning on being in higher education. I knew that at some point I definitely wanted a leadership role, regardless of where that was. But I actually was very dead set on commercial design, graphic arts. That's what I received my Bachelor of Arts in, actually from the University of Findlay. Woohoo, go Oilers. But to be honest, I really didn't maybe get the best experience that I could have. I maybe should have tried a little harder to find something in a bigger city. I truly wanted to do like magazine page layout, and that obviously wasn't really offered within, Findlay. And so while that's kind of where I started, I found myself moving into more of like the recruitment space after truthfully becoming a little bit burnout in the art world. And then from recruitment, it kind of led me here. I started as a graduate admissions counselor and then was promoted. And so, while it's definitely not where I started, I think kind of where I found my passion a little bit later in life, it definitely aligns with that.
Right. Do you find yourself using your art skills in this position as a counselor at all?
Yeah, I think I do. Not so much like the nitty-gritty of actually creating pieces, but knowing what I know from my graphic design background, I think it allows me to approach different marketing tools that, we have here at the university, or kind of communicate with our marketing staff in a way that maybe people who don't have that background, they might not be able to communicate with them that way.
Right. So again, the idea that no education is ever wasted. You never know where you might use that. Um,
No.
yeah, yeah,
And I actually still do graphic design on the side. I have done some wedding invite spreads for people. Sometimes I still like to design for my own kids' birthday parties and those sorts of fun things. So now it's kind of more just for fun, a very
right.
expensive, fun hobby.
Talking about that, a very expensive, fun hobby. Your path to becoming an administrator or director in higher education, would you recommend your path to other people, or do you think if you could do it all over again, there would have been a better path to get you to where you are today?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard one. I really think that I landed where I am now for a reason. I think that the choices that I made eventually led me here. Unfortunately, COVID wasn't super friendly to me. So I had a couple jobs during those COVID years where they let mass amounts of people go, and I ended up losing those positions. I wouldn't say that maybe my route is the best route. I think maybe a more traditional sense, if you kind of have an idea of what you want to do. I think that in high school, it's a very difficult time to really know what it is you want to do for the rest of your life, right? And at the time, art was what I was really passionate about. And so, I don't think I would change it. I definitely think if you can have a better plan, maybe from the get-go, with kind of where you see yourself long term, it might help you land, that bigger dream company right away, or the position to get you in the door to where you want to be long term.
Are there any programs at the college level that you know of that really the ultimate goal would be to end up in a position like yours? I mean, is that getting a business administration degree, or
Yeah,
would that be
so
something else?
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that there is a pro or like a major that really speaks strictly to becoming like an admissions counselor. I think it's more about personality. So all of our undergrad and graduate counselors are required to have a bachelor's degree of some sort. We see a lot of folks come in from all different worlds. Right now, we have some people who were previously educators, some that came from uh like corporate backgrounds. It just depends. I would say at the undergraduate level, a lot of students come in and it's their first job right out of college. So it's all about the personality, being able to, sell a product, really. I mean, we're selling a product to potential students, and who better than someone that just lived it, right?
Right.
So now at the grad level, it's a little bit different. I mean, even undergraduate studies aren't necessarily required for you to become successful, but we're having to work a lot harder. And so I would just say someone who's passionate, someone who's driven and really wants to help people achieve their long-term goals, no matter what college background you came from.
You talked a little bit about your graphic design background, and you also mentioned that you've worked in recruiting and things like that. And really,
Mhm.
that's what you're doing again, like you said, it
Yep.
was sales. Are there any things that you've taken from your other recruiting jobs that you feel like have really helped you in your current position?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some of the recruitment I was doing previously was really trying to find quality candidates to fill internship positions. And so, I'm kind of doing that same thing here. I'm trying to utilize resources that are readily available to me and maybe aren't going to cost an arm and a leg. Unfortunately, we don't have these massive budgets that we're working with to launch big campaigns. So I think it's really kind of like utilizing, making connections, using tools like LinkedIn, Facebook, things that we can post on easily. And then also just utilizing local businesses, and building partnerships. I think that's really where my previous recruitment background, it was all about that, like using the resources that you have and running with those to help benefit you in the long run.
As you think about building connections and networking, are there any connections that you can look back on and say, wow, that was so important to either getting me my first job or getting me this job? Or because I always try to encourage students that you have to build those relationships because those are going to be very important. Can you think of a time when that's really helped you in your career journey?
Yeah. Honestly, like I think looking back and not just saying this because of course you're a Van Buren educator. But I truly had such a great high school experience. And I think that, specifically when I was going towards an art path, Mrs. Nye had a big impact on me. And she was tough, but she helped me build my confidence up and know that like I could achieve anything. I just had to put my mind to it. I think also some coaches that I had, Mrs. Bradagum will forever be someone who I hold near and dear to my heart. She's still someone that I speak to pretty regularly. She was a coach that really instilled in me hard work, and that when you fall down, you got to stand back up. You might not always make it to finals. You might not always make it to state, but you got to keep working hard. And while it's a little different, in athletics, I think that that has really played to me being consistent, remaining focused, and pushing. Leadership is really something that I have always wanted. And so when it maybe wasn't obtained right away, I think I've continued to kind of pave my own path to get there.
As you think about your current position, what are maybe some of the more difficult aspects of it that someone would need to be aware of, whether they are an admissions counselor, whether they're a director of admissions? What are the difficult parts?
Yeah, so I would say the difficult parts are, I'm a working director, so I cover the College of Education and our TESOL program. So I'm not just managing others. I too am in the nitty gritty of, recruiting students for these programs. There's a lot of challenges, as I mentioned, people don't necessarily see the value in continuing their education. And so it's finding ways to present that to potential students so they understand the benefits of where it could take them. And also, I think, traditionally for a very long time, it was as simple as like you filled out a paper application and then somebody registered for you. And we have a lot more processes in play now. We utilize, different systems and application system, and that involves integration into other systems. And so it's not just as simple as, hey, I want to register for this class. Can you do that for me? It's really getting people to understand the process, and not just potential students, faculty, chairs of programs. If they understand the process, I think they can direct students in the right way, whether that's to us or, to the website to apply. Um, and I think finally, the last thing is just there's a lot of moving pieces and parts, right? When it comes to a university and all of the things that happen. So, I sometimes joke like admissions is often the last one to know things, but often the first one to be blamed. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but it's true. When numbers aren't maybe great, um, what's admissions doing? Why aren't you doing more? But truthfully, sometimes we don't even know that changes have been made or that, there's more we can be presenting to these potential students. So it really is kind of finding a way to work collaboratively with lots of different personalities whose focuses are all very different, for the better good of the university as a whole.
Communication seems like it always
Oh,
comes back to that, and that's
always.
anywhere, any business, whatever. So,
Yes, absolutely.
as an admissions counselor, do you have to do any travel or anything like that? How does that work?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I am a working director, and then I have two other counselors. One covers all of our health professions programs, and then our other counselor, he handles pretty much all of the remaining programs that are left. There aren't a ton of grad specific fairs. There are some which we are definitely traveling more here at UF than the grad team has in the past. A lot of times what happens is that career fairs and grad fairs get lumped together. And in my opinion, I think when career is listed first, students aren't probably thinking about grad school when they see career and grad fair. They're thinking, oh, there's going to be potential employers there. So we have realized that some of the travel that we've done maybe isn't as beneficial as others. We are traveling to a couple of places this year that are smaller institutions, like within Ohio or really close, that, as I mentioned, maybe have funnel undergraduate, but don't have those graduate programs. So I think in total this year we're traveling like 5 times, 5 or 6 times.
Okay, that's not too
So
bad.
not nearly as involved as undergraduate travel is.
Okay,
It's much crazier and hectic. They travel way more.
right. Obviously, high school students are a few years away from graduate school,
Yeah.
but as students leave high school, and if they need to go to college or whatever education they need, if at some point they know that they're going to need to go to graduate school, what do they need to make sure they are doing to set themselves up to be accepted and be successful in those programs?
Yeah, I mean, I would say specifically in health professions, the sooner that they know they might want to continue their education on, and in some instances they would have to, right? Physician assistant, physical therapy, occupational therapy. I mean, all of those are going to require extended education. The sooner that they think they might want to do that, or even if they know before graduating high school, finding programs that offer some sort of early assurance, or if they have like a 3+3 program, or as I mentioned, our pharmacy program has a 0+6. That means essentially you are entering into that program right away. You go through kind of a different process. And I would say the other biggest thing is, okay, maybe you don't know, you've done your 4 years, or 3 years, whatever it might be of your undergrad. Looking at some of these programs and seeing what prerequisites are required. I would say a lot of times what we run into is people are like, oh, shoot, my application's due, but I actually have 3 prerequisite courses that I'm going to have to take over the summer for whatever it might be to be accepted into, fully accepted into this program. And it can just cause a little bit more stress, I think.
Right.
I think. And I think also remembering like it's never too late to change, right? Obviously I'm doing something totally different than what I went to school for. We have a lot of people coming in through our post-bac licensure program to become teachers, and they maybe have a totally different background, whether that's in history or art or, anything. So I think it's just remembering it's never too late to change.
Right, right. And I think that's good advice. And yeah, the idea of those early acceptance programs and locking that in,
Yep.
obviously you still have to follow through and do all the work
Yeah.
once you're in there. But again, it just does provide that little bit of assurance that you're going to get into that graduate program. As we wrap up, and as you think about everything that you've learned about careers throughout your working life, what do you know now about careers that you wish you had known when you were back in high school?
I think that the biggest takeaway that I wish I would have known, and something that truthfully I think I'm still learning as I continue to grow in my professional life, is just that you have to be open. You have to be open to change, open to other personalities, open to, learning from others. That's the biggest thing, and not being afraid to continue learning. I am a firm believer that if I'm not learning something new every day, even if it's something super small, like, oh, I can recall an email on Outlook. Like something as little as that, you're truly maybe not getting the most as you could out of your career. And so yeah, just continuing to learn and being open-minded. I think that's the biggest thing that I wish I probably could have told myself.
Good. Well, Ashley, I really appreciate it. Sounds like you're doing well at the University of Findlay, and obviously we've got the new merger with Bluffton University, and I'm sure
Yes,
that's adding a
exciting
lot to
stuff.
your plate and so forth. So thank you very much, and I hope that maybe some other students will reach out to you if they have any interest of going down the path of being an admissions counselor or a director of admissions.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, and good luck as you continue your career journey.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me.
If you liked this Joust About Careers episode, you can explore previous episodes and highlights to learn about even more careers of Van Buren graduates. To be sure you don't miss upcoming episodes, please click subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform so you'll know when the next episode is released. Thank you for spending a portion of your day with us, and we hope you will continue to prepare for your future by learning just about careers.